Today we will begin by discussing maximum prices. As I have already said, maximum prices are always set at a level lower than the one the market would set. They are a price ceiling, so to speak, above which prices cannot rise. No one, no state, sets a maximum price above the one the market would set, because that would make no sense. Maximum prices are always set below potential market prices. So, in terms of economic theory, what is the effect of maximum prices? Well, all of the usual equilibrium-based neoclassical textbooks focus mainly on the first effect I am going to mention, which is the immediate appearance of scarcity. But they do not focus on the second effect, which is even more important, and that is the unhealthy influence a maximum price exerts on the entrepreneurial spirit. When a price lower than the market price is set by law, immediately there are many more people who wish to buy at such a low price than people who are willing to sell. At a market price, similar quantities are supplied and demanded. If a lower price is set, and we covered this when we studied price determination in two-sided competition, there are many more people who demand the good affected by the maximum price than people who supply the good. So what immediately happens? The quantity of the good becomes insufficient to satisfy the demand, which has increased due to the reduced price, the maximum price. As there is not enough of the good to go around at such a low price, the phenomenon of scarcity always emerges. In case you did not catch that, I will say it again. Whenever a maximum price is set below the potential market price, using the coercive power of the state, the phenomenon of scarcity emerges. And since there is not enough for everyone, it becomes necessary to search for alternative systems for distributing the scarce good in relation to the overabundant demand. And we encounter some curious phenomena, which you can observe whenever maximum prices are established. If there is not enough to go around, then what kind of distribution system might immediately be adopted? A first-come, first-served system, as the Americans call it. The first ones to arrive get the good. A line forms. Whenever there is a maximum price, a line forms. The people at the front of the line are able to purchase the good, but those at the back of the line are not. And of course people often say, "This is unfair. There are 20 of us in line, and only the first 6 can buy milk. The other 14 are left empty-handed. It is unfair." Then the politician comes and says, "Oh hell, what a mess I have gotten myself into by setting this maximum price. Lines are formed, and that is unfair, and there is a popular outcry. I've got it! I know what I have to do. So that everyone can have some of the little milk there is, I will ration it among the 20 people in line." The government issues ration cards. "Since there is not enough for everyone, we are going to hand out ration cards, and your ration cards will give you the right to so many kilos of bread, half a liter of oil, and so on." Do not laugh, because your grandparents and great-grandparents lived during periods when there were ration cards and maximum prices in Spain. Another system exists for allocating resources if a maximum price keeps the market from working. Imagine I need to buy something, and there is not enough to go around. I depend on friendship. "Remember the favor I did you that time? Please sell me a ham." Or another, even less wholesome method of trying to convince a seller to sell to you. I will leave that to your imagination. Or ultimately, violence. Chaos breaks out, and people storm and loot a store and run away with TV sets under their arms. Take note. The moment the state sets a maximum price and the market stops working, we are left with processes which are violent, superfluous, unjust, and absurd. Furthermore, the phenomenon of scarcity, which is the one recognized in all economic textbooks, is compounded even further by the harmful effect maximum price setting has on the entrepreneurial spirit. As you already know, the entrepreneurial spirit is driven by the profits entrepreneurs hope to obtain. If the profits they can charge are limited in a certain area, profits are eliminated. At that point, the force of entrepreneurship is entirely redirected. Entrepreneurs abandon the sphere with maximum prices and concentrate on lines of production in other areas where they can make more profit. What happens next? The problem of scarcity gets even worse. The only possible way to put an end to scarcity is to direct all entrepreneurial spirit toward finding a solution to the scarcity problem. Profit is the essential incentive, and since maximum prices remove this incentive, the problem of scarcity becomes even worse. Fortunately, the market seeks solutions to the inefficiencies maximum prices create. Often such solutions must be outside the law. Luckily, black markets, as they are called, appear, and, operating outside the law, work to solve the problems of scarcity, lines, rationing, and so on, which are typical of maximum prices. Let us consider a logical series of events. Imagine there is a poor crop. There is a drought year and a poor crop. Less wheat is produced. What do you think happens then to the price of wheat? It rises. A popular outcry follows. Mothers cry, "Oh no, the flour for my children, the milk, etc. Famine! They are starving us! They are exploiting us! Entrepreneurs are to blame! The bakers who make the bread are absorbing our income!" And then the politician says, "Do not worry. There has been a poor crop and the price has risen, right? There is only one thing to do. We will set a maximum price, a reasonable maximum price, so that everyone can buy." And everybody says, "Thank goodness there is a sensible politician who knows what must be done." Everyone votes for him. The maximum price is set. Now, of course, as a result, the little bread there was disappears, and lines, ration cards, violence and cronyism follow. Fortunately, some entrepreneurs risk their lives and establish a black market. Of course, on the black market, the price at which bread is bought and sold is not the official price at which there is no bread. Instead, the price is 5 times higher. At such a price, it becomes worthwhile, for instance, to import wheat from France, where there has been no drought. Many of you have family members who owe their lives to the much reviled speculator. A similar term in Spanish is extrapelista, or black marketeer. In the years following the Spanish Civil War, there was severe poverty, and maximum prices were set for most food items. This led to serious scarcity. Luckily, there was a black market, and people knew they could buy oil, bread, ham, and so on at higher prices. And even though these were much higher prices, the black market saved a great many people from starvation and death. In every market square of every Spanish city, there should be a monument to the extrapelista, or the speculator, who, though hated by all and treated as a scapegoat, risked his life and ended up saving thousands upon thousands of human beings. A statue should be put up in recognition of him. I could give you many other examples. One would be the freezing of rents, which in Spain had a disastrous effect. It wiped out the housing stock until not too many years ago. I gave another illustration in class. You will all remember it. Do you recall when we talked about the fall of the Roman Empire? What happened to the Roman Empire? We have studied this. The situation was the same as now. The welfare state, panem et circenses, bread and circuses. This bankrupted Italian producers. Everyone said, "Me? Work? I too am off to Rome to mooch off the state, the annona." Rome grew, and more proletarians lived there. Proletarians were people who were so poor that they had only their children and lived off the state. In fact, the more children they had, the better, because then they had a right to a greater share of the public subsidy. Of course, that system was impossible to sustain with public spending. The state went into deficit, and since the system was unsustainable, what did politicians do? They decided to fund it with newly produced money. At that time, they were unfamiliar with the concept of inflation through the issuance of paper money. What they did was remove silver from the denarius. They debased the coin and multiplied it by 10. What happens to prices when this is done? They skyrocket. And when prices rose, what did the authorities do? They established maximum prices. And by doing so, they caused widespread scarcity and blocked the processes of production and exchange. What had been a flourishing common market, comparable to that of the European Union in scope, despite the differences between the historical periods, collapsed and disappeared. The barbarians simply occupied the remains of the Roman Empire after its self-destruction due to the welfare state and interventionism. This is another example you can remember and analyze. I would like you to read Chapter 3 of The Delusion of Incomes Policy by Samuel Britton and Peter Lilly. It is fascinating reading, and it describes Erhard's miracle. At the end of World War II, Germany had been destroyed by bombings. 11 million people had died. Germany was occupied by the winning powers: England, France, the United States, and the Soviet Union. The Western powers came. Not the communists, it is clear what to expect from them. The powers came and said, "This is hopeless. The country is in ruins." And they established a whole list of maximum prices for staple goods, like foods. The result was hunger, scarcity, and poverty. But luckily, the former mayor of Cologne, Adenauer, happened to appoint Ludwig Erhard, Minister of Economic Affairs. Erhard had been a pupil of Röpke's and had studied the works of Mises and Hayek. And Erhard, an economist who knew what he was talking about, said, "There is only one solution. We must eliminate all of the maximum prices and establish a free market." He proposed this to the Western powers. They were all soldiers. They had brought the best advisers with them, including a certain Galbraith, who was hailed as an economic genius who was going to save Germany. But what he did was destroy it. What a disgrace. It was just like when the United States occupied Japan with General MacArthur. Interventionism and maximum prices. How shameful for the West to have imposed that. The Western powers paid no attention to Erhard. They said, "You are crazy. How can you think of freeing prices when Germany is in ruins?" Well, ladies and gentlemen, one Sunday, when the occupiers were out playing golf, Mr. Adenauer and Mr. Erhard, under their own responsibility, issued a very short decree. There was only one article. As of Monday, there will no longer be any maximum prices. Prices will be free in Germany. Erhard says he was terrified. He was thinking, "The economic theory I have read had better work. It had better work or I will lose my job." And indeed, at breakfast the next morning, when the English and the Americans opened their newspapers and took a sip of their coffee, they nearly choked. "What have these men done?" They called them on the phone. "You are crazy. You will be out of a job." But do you know what happened? Erhard's miracle. Somehow, seemingly inexplicably, out of the blue, from the ruins of the destroyed German cities, a superabundance of eggs, milk, bread, and potatoes poured into improvised markets. Where had all of that food been before? It had been concealed by the maximum prices. In the face of the evidence, the occupying powers had to keep silent. And that was the beginning of the German economic miracle, the Wirtschaftswunder, which in turn provided a model for the stabilization plan for the Spanish economy, which was launched 10 years later.